Hey everyone, Gen24 coming at you from Models Workshop, and today I'm going to actually follow up on the tutorial that I did last week about filling seam lines. This one is almost done. I probably should have done this yesterday while recording the podcast, or not done it while recording the podcast, but I'm going to go ahead and go over my method. Let's see, I've got a little suction cup vise here, set it up. Alright, so I'm going to unscrew this. Now I usually disassemble as far as I can on a model, on something like this. This is a Gundam. This is a Wing Zero to be specific. And you got to be careful, but I'm going to pull the whole knee off. I guess wasn't my intentions, but now for what I do on prepping, this was pre-built. I didn't have a chance to build it. The guy likes to do it, which I understand, but I go in here and smooth out as much as possible any of the imperfections that you can. So when you primer them, that area is not going to be really well seen. But you want to be able to have it as smooth as possible. Now one area I'm going to cover and do another coat on because it just needs it is back here. The seam is not as smooth as I would like it. So, start off, this is a 1600 grit sanding pad. You can get these, they're called from Alpha Abrasive. This is two different packages. I don't know where I got the first pack, and it's not an Alpha Abrasive, but Alpha Abrasive works too. I just go through here, sanding along the seam, like so. Make sure you get around and you follow the curve. That way you don't create a flat spot. Make sure to get all the seams. Now it looks like the seam's a lot bigger than it is, but it's actually relatively smooth. It just needs another once over. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some really thin super glue. I have some from Citadel. Not the best stuff, but all we're using it for is a gap filler. So I apply it to the seam and the surrounding seams like so. It should flow into, and make sure you just brush it. I might actually mess around with adding a little bit of dye to this particular super glue, and this may be my filler super glue, because it'd be nice to actually have a color reference instead of clear. And usually just rub my finger like this. I need it dry a little bit, or you can just let it set. So nice and dry. Take the X-Acto. I'm going to trim right here a little bit. Like so. Now one thing you can do is you can actually go through and lightly scrape too. You can use it with an X-Acto knife, or you can do the seam line remover that Citadel has, which is actually a pretty decent product, I'm not going to lie. You can gently scrape it. What you're trying not to do is pull any of the super glue that's in the seam out, unless of course it's above the surface. You want it to be as flat as possible. And once you've scraped it, take the sandpaper. You start off at the 1600. Remember moving it back and forth to keep it where it's not going to move or not going to wear a flat spot. Then I'm going to go ahead and bump it up to a 3200. It's a 3200 sanding pad. And this is going to smooth the surface and get rid of any major scratches that the 1600 or the the scraping blade might have left. It's going to feel really smooth, and it's actually going to be very flat in color. It's not going to be, you're going to lose that plastic look, and it's almost going to get more of a painted look at this point, which is kind of what you want, which is nice. Go through here, and super glue is a little shiny, so you can like angle it up and see. Now, I do not recommend using plastic glue on this type of deal, because plastic glue is going to actually melt the plastic, which can damage it. Go over the different surfaces, make them where they're nice and flat, make it where, run your nail across them, see if they catch it all. Now, this is only the first method we're going to go over, because pretty much everyone should have super glue laying around their hobby room. We'll go over some of the other methods and more specialty products that are designed more for gap filling, but I always found that super glue is easiest because you have it usually just right there. Now, if you have liquid green stuff or something, it works really well, surprisingly well. There's a few products that GW, Games Workshop, makes, for people who don't know, that are super surprising. They may be expensive, but they're actually really good. This is one of them. It is cheap. It's plastic. Don't get me wrong. It's not sturdy, but it works really well for this type of stuff. But now that it's nice and smooth, you don't want the surface being too smooth, because you still want it to be able to, you want it to accept a primer if you're going to paint, which if you're doing this much work to it, you're going to more than likely paint it. And if it's too smooth, it won't take a primer that well. So you want it to be a little rough. And the cool thing about these sanding pads is they're very flexible, so they can actually get into, you can actually bend them. Couple parts I wish I'd have probably took apart and then hit, this being one of them. There's a decent seam that's running through there. I could get rid of it, but with the pose that the Gundam's going to be in, it's going to be almost unnoticeable. So, this is a follow-up to seam line filling and how to go. It's basically just running super glue, one or two. This one was pretty much done, but one or two light coats, sand it with progressively smoother sanding paper. Now, I have 12,000. I mean, if I really wanted to, I could go through here and hit it with the model with a 12,000 grit, which, here, let me do it real quick and I'll show you. You can see it's really shiny now, and this is not even fully done. To be fully done, you'd have to do multiple directions and little swirls and all the good stuff. But it's almost too smooth, and you don't really want that. You want it to be rough a little bit. You know, it's just lightly go over it with this. I noticed a spot I missed. And the cool thing about the sandpaper, or the super glue method, is it's a different color. Now, if I use liquid green stuff, of course it's bright green, so it sticks out quite well as well. The super glue shines, so you can just usually go around and look, and you can see if there's any that you might have missed. So this was one of the last things that I had to do. So we should actually be painting this bad boy really soon. The next Gundam that I get in, I will be doing more I'll video record a lot more so we can actually see what's going on from the very start all the way up to the final builds. So hope you enjoyed. Please subscribe if you haven't already. We will be publishing content, probably not every week, but every other week or at least once a month. We'll try to get a good video up for you. You can head over to modelsworkshop.com, which is our actual website where we post written tutorials, how-tos, reviews, guides, and all that good stuff. And plus our podcasts on any podcatcher at for Models Workshop After Hours, where we sit around and you can hear me cuss this thing out as I work on it. Let's see if I can show this bad boy off without breaking anything. This is it so far. It still needs a final sanding to go through over. I'm going to pull the wings off again. And then double check everything and make sure that it is done. I have been told I will be doing, he's already commissioned me for a second Gundam. It's the arch nemesis of this one. I'm Gundam dumb, so please excuse me for not knowing the names of all the different Gundams. But these will... Now, I am freezing this one in a pose. It's going to be the pose where he has his arms straight out and he's shooting his rifle. It's the final battle in the final pose in the final battle with this guy. So, this is the wings here I'm working on. Hopefully you enjoyed, and I will talk to you later.